You're listening to the Board Game Snobs podcast, a ridiculous podcast with ridiculous hosts that discuss ridiculous things. And any mention of board games is purely coincidental. And so, without further ado, and with a heavy dollop of shame and embarrassment on my part, I give you the Board Game Snobs.
Welcome to the Board Game Snobs podcast. I'm your reliable, consistent host, always here for you, except when I'm not at BGG. Gaby, with me today, special co-host, Mark Besada.
Yes, I am your last-minute fill-in host.
And I appreciate that as well. You were my first one I contacted, I assure you.
I'm number one on the Rolodex there. No, I appreciate it. No, I'm happy to be here.
I'm glad you answered me. Everyone else has me on mute or block now, apparently. So somehow I snuck through and you answered, and I appreciate it.
It's funny. You messaged me through Facebook, and I am never on Facebook, but I have this idiot friend of mine who lives in Los Angeles, but for some reason bought Broncos season tickets. He bought a single Broncos season tickets. Never goes to Denver, but is just a big fan and has this like aspiration in his mind that he's going to go to Denver to watch these games. Never ends up going, and then he'll email me like the day before saying, "Hey, can you sell me this? Can you sell my ticket? Can you do something with this ticket?" And so I was going on Facebook to find somebody, if I knew a friend in Denver who wanted this ticket, and ended up finding somebody, so that's all done. But that's the only reason I was on Facebook and got your message. So
I was sitting there looking at your name and just waiting for your green light to pop up. I was like, I got him.
Well, you do that usually, right? You're just sitting there waiting for me to pop up, and
I'm just waiting for you to pop up.
Yeah.
So Kellen's a fan of the Denver Broncos, huh?
Yeah, he's a big fan of Denver Broncos. I tried to. Oh, that's funny. I totally missed that because Kellen is actually a fan of the Denver Broncos. But yes.
Really?
But yeah, no, this is another idiot friend. I've many idiot friends. So
me too.
Banter segment. Engage.
Did you know that onions were the vegetable that used to treat gunshot wounds?
I did not know that. How do you use an onion to treat a gunshot wound? You just stick it in there?
Apparently they have rub the juices, onion juice.
Okay.
You gotta I don't know how they did it back in the old days, but mulch them down.
Right.
I've never heard anybody juicing an onion.
That's
Actually,
true.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. You don't get onion juice anywhere, do you?
There's not great demand for onion juice in the smoothie days.
Right.
I don't know of anyone that has a juicer and they have onions just sitting there waiting to get juiced.
But I feel like you would have heard of onion juice. It doesn't sound that like. Couldn't you use onion juice in some sort of like dish? I feel like.
Surely, but I have never heard of onion juice.
I think we have just figured out our next $1 million
niche market.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm pumping all my money into onion juice. But apparently it's got antibiotic factors that have been known about for quite some time.
This all goes on the label.
Yeah.
Gaby and Mark onion juice, and then all this stuff.
It apparently, onions traditionally have been known as a fighting food. Onions were fed to Greek athletes in training for the brutally competitive Olympics. Gladiators were massaged with onion juice before entering the arena.
We're bringing it back.
The Roman legions, who had a passion for all things onion, distributed... Now, this is a word I'm not familiar with. I'm assuming it's like the whole family of onions, garlic, and other pungent vegetables.
Okay.
Alliums?
Never heard of it.
Alliums. Neither have I. But it says the Roman legions distributed alliums across Europe. In fact, one authority says that it's possible to follow the advance of the Roman Empire by plotting range maps for garlic.
Interesting.
So just follow the smell of the Roman legions.
Wow.
But yeah, it says back then they thought it had these, how they thought about things. They thought it had some powerful that would boost your courage
some sort of
and all this type of stuff.
Yeah, sure.
But food and onions and garlic, it says they have antibiotic aspects to them that are indeed beneficial.
Can they consider them fighting foods? What is your favorite fighting food, would you say, Gabby, if you had to pick a fighting food?
I'm with the Romans. I'm a garlic man.
Yeah? I like garlic too, but I think if I needed to get hyped up to fight, I think I would go with ginger. I think ginger would fire me up.
Then I just think of redheaded people.
Okay, right. Well, you see red, you get all fired up. It all works together.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. Red is the color of rage.
That's right. That's
you
what I'm
need
saying.
rage to go into battle.
Yeah, exactly. Just bite off a stalk of ginger and you're ready to go.
Alliums is a genus of flowering plants that includes hundreds of species, including the onion, garlic, etc.
There you go. Your guess was right.
Strangely enough, growing up, probably like many kids, I despised onions.
Yeah.
And garlic.
Right.
But now I will eat a purple onion by itself raw.
Really? Wow.
I love purple onion.
I knew somebody like that. I knew somebody who would just bite into an onion like an apple. I think
you have to wear goggles while you're doing it.
Right. Right. I like onions grilled or sautéed, but
that's good too.
But I think usually an onion on my burger, if it's not grilled or sautéed, is detracting, I think, from my experience. Not really a raw onion guy, I gotta admit.
I love onions in all forms, shapes, and sizes.
You're all inclusive when it comes to your onion love.
Hamburgers with like you said, a good sautéed onion.
Yeah,
that's good stuff.
Perfect.
Right there.
Love that. I love that.
Well, they call that when you claim a website,
right? Yeah,
claiming
registering
Gaby's
the domain.
Onions.
Yeah,
registering a domain.
That's right.
Gaby'sOnionJuice.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then look back once we're sitting on our piles of money. They'll look back to this episode and realize this is what
on all my Bitcoin. I'm going to invest into it.
That's right.
Speaking of ridiculous things, have you ever heard of the tulip mania that took over Holland and the Dutch?
Yes, I've heard of it, and I've heard of it recently. Again, coming up with all the crypto stuff, like as an analogy to all the crypto stuff.
That's what they were talking. It's like, somebody just decided tulips were all the go, and people were trading like one bulb of a tulip for like breweries and houses and then it just like instantly crashed and everybody was broke.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No. That's amazing that you can just suddenly everyone just decides something is super valuable.
Right.
That really is not.
Right.
Like and that's what gets me with Bit. It's like what is it? Who says it's valuable?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know enough about it to really obviously talk about it with any sort of intelligence, but obviously you're referring to the stuff that just went on with FTX, and I was listening to a podcast after this all went down with the guy who was running it, this guy SBF, who was like the Bitcoin genius who started FTX. And so this was like an interview from a year ago, way before anything happened, while he was still like really popular and all these people were giving him money. And he was on the podcast and they were asking him like, where does Bitcoin get its, or where do your things get their value from? And the way he was describing it, he's like, it's this box that doesn't have any value, and then we put money in the box, and then people are looking at it and saying, hey, these guys are putting money in the box, we should put money in the box. And then they put money in the box, and the box suddenly becomes valuable. And it's like, and then one of the co-hosts who was interviewing was like, it sounds like you're talking about a Ponzi scheme here.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, it's more complicated than that, but it turns out that maybe it wasn't.
No, it's more like a triangle. Yeah. And like, you're on top and you get the people at the bottom. Yeah.
Right.
So I have an email from Raymond Simmons.
Good old Raymond.
He says, Life of the Amazonia and Kickstarter obsession. I won't read verbatim, but he pledged all in for Life of the Amazonia. Have you heard of this guy? Have you heard of this?
I have not heard of that. Was that your Jay Leno?
That's my hey, have you heard of this? That's my Jay Leno.
I had not heard of this. I'm not as much of a Kickstarter guy as my two co-hosts are. Nealon and Kellen are big.
I think I've backed Rise of the Tribes. That was an unfortunate decision. That solo game, oh my God, it's the Shakespeare Silhouette Woman.
Oh, Black Sonata?
Black Sonata.
How was that?
That's a good game.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
That's a good game. I backed listener and designer Don Gilstrap's Backyard Chickens.
Okay.
That was a deck building game. Wasn't really my cup of tea, but I don't like deck building. I just did it to support my dear friend Don
That's
Gilstrap.
the best reason to back something. I'm with you there.
I feel like there's one other thing I've backed, but I'm just, I don't like waiting. I just don't want to spend my money and then wait 2 years to see it come to fruition.
Right. Yeah. Just basically giving out an interest-free loan sort of thing, right?
Pretty much. But and that's kind of the reason that Raymond Simmons gives for his, he hasn't backed many games as well, but he says he backed this one because it says all wooden upgrades, most I've ever spent on a game. I think it's gorgeous, so colorful and exciting to look at. And yes, that does seem to be the number one criteria before I consider anything else. I have to become convinced that a game is good on lots of other levels before I'll buy it. But initially, it's all about the emotional reaction I have to the way it looks. Have you had emotional reactions when gazing upon a game?
I think I have. You know, I fancied myself when I first got into the hobby, when I first got deep into hobby as a guy who was like, oh, I don't care how it looks. Like, it can all be black and white and paper pieces and all this stuff. It doesn't matter as long as the game is good. But honestly, that's not true. Like, when you look at a game and it's really nice looking or some theme that you're really interested in, you can't help but getting excited for it. I'm looking at the Life of Amazonia Kickstarter page here. I had not heard of it. And I was telling you, this cover shot is a little like, I was worried it was looked a little cheap looking, and I wasn't really sure where Raymond was coming from. But as I scroll down and I look at some of these other pictures, it actually is quite nice. It's quite nice production. It's got a lot of it's got like a 3D waterfall sort of thing going on, and a bunch of different cool looking pieces. I will say that looks can only, keep a game in my rotation for so long. If it falls flat mechanically or stuff, I'm still not going to hold on to it. But yeah, there's obviously a natural inclination to be attracted to nice looking games, I think.
Yeah, it's just like people.
Yeah.
You look at somebody that's highly attractive, such as yourself, and I'm like, hey, yeah,
can't help
I would
it.
be interested.
It's just nature.
Look at someone like me, and they're appalled, and they're like, I'm not backing that guy.
Come on.
That's what do they call that? That's self-deprecation. Right there. So you gotta keep.
That's funny.
I can't be like Jerry. Jerry thinks he's God's gift to the world,
right.
So I got to balance that. I may go too far in the other direction.
I gotcha.
But anyway, he says it's like Cascadia on steroids. We played Cascadia at BGG Spring of this year. I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
I do not like tile laying games. I've never found one that just wows me. I hate with a passion Carcassonne.
Yeah.
I know it's this, epitome of gateway, and people love this game.
Yeah.
I hate Carcassonne. It's boring. It's a snooze fest. You're just putting a puzzle with no borders together. That's all you're doing.
So what did Cascadia do for you that, made you like it?
I think it was the different ways that you had to play. Like, everything had its own set of rules for how it would score.
Right.
And of course, some of that, and it wasn't luck of the draw. Like Carcassonne, you draw one thing and you have to place it. And of course, I know there's all sorts of
variations and stuff.
Yeah, but the original rules for the game are draw this, play it. Okay, so you're stuck with that one thing. But this one is up to you. You could choose on Cascadia what you wanted to pick.
Right.
Then you could place it strategically, and you had an opportunity to actually map out what you were going to do somewhat.
Yeah, totally.
And which way of scoring you wanted to lean into, or a couple different ways. And I like that. It may also be the thing that maybe I didn't think it was great, but it wasn't the terrible game I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. You went in thinking I'm not into tile laying games, and went in with a low bar, and that was definitely exceeded. Yeah.
I don't know if that's, is that a compliment? Probably not much of one.
Right.
It didn't suck. So there you go. And then Raymond was saying he's backed 4 other games: Tiny Epic Dinosaurs, Tiny Epic Pirates, Tiny Epic Vikings, and Cartographer's Heroes.
All right.
So I've not played any of those games. I don't know what Cartographer's Heroes. That's different than Cartographers, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I don't know if that's I thought there might be like a legacy version of Cartographers coming out. Maybe that's that, or I don't know. I'm not actually sure, but
and the Tiny Epics, I've played the one where you're launching off. It's the sci-fi one, the space one.
Galaxies, Tiny Epic.
Yes, I played Tiny Epic Galaxies. It was fine. but I don't know.
Yeah,
They're
I'm with
okay.
you. I liked Tiny Epic Galaxies okay, but the other Tiny Epic games have not been as good, in my opinion. So
I was going to answer one question from Mr. Hamilton. He said, obligatory board game question. What has been your biggest letdown of a hot/popular game? And the one I keep going, I was going to answer, first I was thinking Tapestry. That game was beautiful.
that's mine. I'm going to take that from you. I was trying to rack my brain. I was trying to rack my
Okay.
brain about which one I would pick, but Tapestry was mine by far. I was super disappointed by that game. Not a big fan at all.
Us as well. I got it, and I was just like, let's just run up the track of the board game.
Right.
And it's beautiful. Like, just, fantastic components.
Yeah.
But like you said, that only takes you so far.
Yeah.
And we found it ultimately boring and also like very swingy.
Oh yeah.
And
That was my problem. Like the first time I played Tapestry, I forget the cards you draw where you figure out what faction you're in. So, and I drew a couple cards and I just looked at them and I looked at the board and I thought maybe I didn't know the rules well enough, but I was thinking to myself like, this is pretty much unstoppable. Like I don't know how I'm not going to win this game just from the get-go, from the advantages I got from the get-go. And sure enough, like I can't remember the details, but I just remember I was like not really giving much thought to my moves, and I'm like, oh, okay, this just happens to work out for my my faction, and it's just like I'm scoring points, and all my opponents are like fretting over their moves and trying to figure out how to play and like really working at it, and I ended up winning by like 50 points or something, and I didn't, and I had not thought, I didn't consider anything, I just like lucked into it, and then the next time I played it, it was like the opposite situation where. Well, I guess not opposite, but like somebody else at the table got a couple faction powers or stuff that worked together, and we were trying to struggle to figure out what to do, and they were just flying up there, and I was like, this game is just way too reliant on some nice draws. So yeah, never went back to it after that.
yeah, if things click into place for you, you're on the gravy train.
Yeah.
I do like tracks in games. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like I like choosing different tracks and being able to figure out what does what, and if this one runs up, or choosing a balance. That's why I like Mombasa, it has those, 4 different tracks running up, but they interconnect much better than the ones for Tapestry did for me.
100%
But
agree.
my other big letdown, which we're in the minority on this, was Liberty Winds of Libertalia.
Yeah.
I didn't get it. People are raving about this game, and I know it's a redo, and some people hated the new art, but I would say almost overall, it got overwhelmingly positive reviews.
Right.
And it did nothing for me.
I like it fine, but I liked Libertalia. I like Libertalia fine. So I thought the Winds of Galecrest was an improvement, but still not enough to make the game like a top 100 game for me. But I like it okay. Have you played Libertalia, or did you?
Not the original. No.
Yeah. I think Winds of Galecrest is better, but yeah. I mean, I can definitely say that game is not for everyone for sure. It's not like a overwhelmingly remarkable game or anything.
So that kind of goes into the next thing I was going to kind of ask. Like, so this is it's basically a revised version, right?
Right.
So would you say you liked it better than the original?
I did. I remember there are some tweaks, and I can't remember exactly which ones they are, but I remember when I was trying to figure out what the differences were, thinking to myself that they seemed to all be improvements over the original. I know some people don't like them, and I wish I could remember what they were specifically. I think they sort of just smoothed out some rough edges, but I thought it was an improvement. And like I said, I like the original okay. I like this one a little more than okay, but it's not a game that I own. It's not a game that I'm ever going to like beg to play or anything like that.
Yeah, we sold it. I would say another one that we sold, Arc Nova. We played it. It was okay. Jerry absolutely despised the scoring mechanism of getting those two sides to meet, and that enraged him. Yeah, overly long. I would just assume I'd rather play Terraforming Mars if that's what we're going to do.
Are you a fan of Terraforming Mars?
Not really.
Yeah.
I like it solo.
Yeah. I don't like Terraforming Mars, and I liked Arc Nova slightly better than that, but not really that much more. I actually do like that scoring crossing thing. I think that's sort of interesting. But not a game that I enjoyed too much either. So,
and then what I was going to mention though was the revised versions, some that do improve the game and some that do nothing except revise the version.
Right.
The brass games, I would say, excellent job at being revised versions.
Absolutely agree. Okay. I was worried.
Across the board.
Yep.
Okay. My rant in this episode is against the first edition of the Voyages of Marco Polo.
Okay.
I have played it several times, but here recently I played it with a couple friends of mine. They did literally, they never left the first city to travel.
Okay.
And they destroyed me just in fulfilling
Contracts. Okay.
They did not travel, not one bit. I made it all the way over to Beijing and scored my 10 points and blah, blah, blah.
Interesting.
The second game, they beat me even more badly. But the first time, I was like, okay, this is how, and it was their first game. I'm like, telling them the whole travel. If you fulfill your go card and you go here and here and here and get at least, 1 to 4 of those different cities, you get racks up these. They completely ignored the top half of the board and still won. And that just angered me. Now, here's the thing. Here's the catch that people complain about. People love the asymmetric powers of Marco Polo.
Right.
The group I was playing with, and also me and Jerry and Enrique, none of us like asymmetric power. We like to be on a level playing field.
Okay.
That way we know I won for this reason, and we all had we're all on the same level.
I can respect that. Okay.
There's no I had this ability that you did not have, therefore, it's unbalanced. If you don't like asymmetric powers like that, though, you mean you don't like Marco Polo, because that's like the whole thing with it, like just a weird, right. And so we just don't use any of those.
Okay.
We just play without them.
Gotcha.
And that's what I was telling them. I said, this game is broken if you don't use the asymmetrical powers, because there's some of those that traveling is their thing.
Right.
Like you can have 2 people traveling, or you can, I forget there's another one.
You can drop houses as you travel. You don't have to land on the place.
Yes,
yeah, right.
Yeah. So you're like just tearing it up.
Yeah.
Because I play it on BGA too, and these guys, and that's why I tried it, because these guys were doing the traveling, and maybe I just suck at Marco Polo because they beat me on there too. So that's a very viable explanation.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we don't use the asymmetrical powers.
Okay.
But I feel in the first edition of the game, you have to play with them if you're going to travel and try to win.
I think you're probably right. I wonder what your scores were. I bet they were way lower than you, because I think
they were like in the 50s.
Yeah,
because the guys I played with on BGA, I think they were in the 80s.
Yeah, right.
I can tell you, Rack 1119 beat me.
Yeah, he's tough.
89 to 83. Okay, so this was my first game back after like a year or two of playing. I scored 26 points. Okay, so that's
this is
really bad.
This was on BGA, or this was your in-person game?
That was BGA.
Okay.
And a Fractal 75 also defeated me.
You're playing the big boys there. Fractal 75.
This game I played with my friends here, 56 to 44 to 33.
Okay.
So still very low scoring.
Why are you hanging on to Marco Polo, though, if you don't like asymmetric powers?
I love the game. I love it. But I just now realized how terrible traveling without powers is.
Right.
So here's the thing. I was going to talk about revised editions. Jerry says he played part 2, and it fixes that. Right. I don't know how. I have not played it.
So I played part 2 as well. I am a fan of part 1. Part 2 for me is like, I can't remember how I just remember the powers not being as crazy in part 2. And I remember like my feeling whenever I play part 1 is that at the end of the game, I feel like, I totally didn't do this one aspect of the game, or I could have done more if I had more turns here or there. And I always feel like, I wish the game lasted a turn or two more. I remember with Marco Polo 2, the couple times I played it, at the end, I always feel like, I did pretty much everything I wanted to do. So it's like you feel more satisfied, I think, but also it's like you don't have that, I just want more, that like feeling like you wish you had a little bit more turn. You just feel like, okay, I sort of did it all.
That's why I was thinking that's kind of the reason I like the first one, is it does have that tightness, restraint. It's like you are very limited.
Yes.
Like you're always just short of doing this or that.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't think you get that in part 2. Part 2, if you like more, I think like regular Euro games where you can get your plans all done, you might enjoy it more. But I don't think it has that like leave you hanging sort of feeling that Marco Polo 1 does.
Okay, so and part 2 is also available on BGA. And
I didn't know that. Oh, okay.
I believe so. I'm pretty sure.
We should play that.
I'll give it a try.
Yeah.
I have not listened to y'all's. Let's see. This is going to come out right before Thanksgiving. I have not listened to y'all's last episode where y'all were discussing some digital killed the something.
Yeah.
So which way did y'all lean?
I brought up the episode. Actually, I'm the one who suggested it when we were talking about episodes. And it had been on my mind because I've been playing a lot of BGA recently. And it just sort of struck me as it struck me that like a lot of games that I had played in person before BGA, now that I've played them like a number of times on BGA, just some games really seem to benefit from being on BGA, and some games are quite the opposite. So it's just interesting to me that, like, for example, Race for the Galaxy was a game that I had never, I played in person a couple times, but I've played it now literally hundreds of times on BGA, and it's become like one of my favorite games. And then alternatively, Seven Wonders Duel is a game that I played in person a couple times, really liked it. And now that I've played it on BGA, 10, 15 times, I just can't stand it anymore. So
You played it to death.
yeah, exactly. And I don't know, it just, the like how solid the game is, like the nuances available, really come out. And you would expect them to come out after you play them a bunch of times. But that's just something that I had been thinking about. Also the fact that, and this was something I didn't really like admitting on the show, but like whenever a game pops up on BGA, I just at that point have no desire to own it anymore. I don't, because I feel like why play it in person when I can play it digitally? And there could be a game that you really like, so you'd want it in person, but there are so many games out there that if I want to play, I don't know, like It's a Wonderful World, even if I like it, I can just play that online and then spend the time that I would be playing it in person on something else, because we've got all these games that we never get to. So I just was thinking about how all this digital gaming on BGA sort of like warped my sense of the hobby, and wondering if it affected other people. I know you're not such a big fan, right, of asynchronous play in BGA and
The
stuff.
asynchronous, no, because I have a hard time in IRL keeping track of what I'm doing.
Sure.
So 3 days later after I've made a move, I have no idea what I've done.
Right.
And much less keeping track of anyone else, which I don't, again, in real life even do.
Right.
But like we have said, Jerry and I, BGA has killed several games for us as far as City of the Big Shoulders. It is, the implementation on BGA is fantastic. We have no desire to break out that humongous game with all those parts, set it up, when it's so much simpler just to click your mouse. And, of course, you don't get the tactile feel, blah, blah, blah. And there are some games that I prefer to play in real life, but I do like what you said there. It's like, if it's on there, well, then that leaves me open to play another game that's not on there in real life.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Like Lost Ruins of Arnak, I've had no desire to own that game, mainly because I have Dune Imperium and I prefer that over it. But for some reason, I enjoy playing Lost Ruins of Arnak on BGA.
Okay.
And I don't even care for the game that much, but it's like, it's so popular, it's always up.
Yeah.
Like there's always people looking. So I'm like, all right, fine, I'll play. And then I always get invested in it.
Right.
But I'm like, I don't really want to own this game though.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was another one. It's a bigger game that we've played on BGA, and Jerry said, he has no desire to play it in real life no more, but I can't think of me what it is. And they're constantly expanding too. It's like they're constantly putting stuff on there. So
yeah, it'd be one thing if there were like 4 or 5 games on there and everybody got sick of them, but yeah, they're always popping up with something new.
we just played recently Great Western Trail. Didn't care for it. And, that's one of those games that came out at the same time as Terraforming Mars, and it was a humongous hit. Not as big as Terraforming Mars, obviously, but it was still a massive hit. And it's another one of those with the revised edition. However, we didn't care for the first one, so we don't care for the second one. But people are saying people are not happy with the revised edition because like it didn't really change anything.
Yeah, I thought the revised edition was just like some cosmetic stuff, and it included the expansion or something like that, or did it even include the expansion? I can't remember.
I don't know.
Okay.
We're not invested enough.
Sure.
I think it changed the quote unquote Indians to bandits.
Okay.
I think it changed the art. I think it added some women characters.
Okay.
Perhaps. And like that's from what I understand, like that's about it.
Right.
So it's like, why was I don't know. We didn't like it anyway, so I don't care. But I was just thinking of there's some games that get revised that turn a almost great game into a great game. Then there's some games that get revised and they turn a fine game. It's still into a fine game. It doesn't do anything other than, like you said, usually a lot of cosmetic stuff.
Yeah, put a new coat of paint on it. Yeah.
Can't Stop. I've played hundreds of games of Can't Stop. I bought it because I enjoyed it so much on BGA. I've played it twice, and I'm going to sell it because I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to roll die and add it up in my head. And then try to move up these little houses, these fiddly little rooftops. I'm like, no, I'm just going to stick to BGA on Can't Stop.
I'm with you. Have you played Can't Stop Express?
No.
Yeah, I had not played it. We just had a tournament. Some of our listeners started up a tournament, and it's really good. We should play it. It's like a 5-minute sort of take on Can't Stop that I think you probably would like.
I love it. I love Can't Stop.
Yeah.
Can't Stop. It's I can't get enough of that. But Carnegie, we had played that. We had just played it, and then they just put it on BGA, and that that kind of makes me sad because I'm like, we really liked it, but now that it's on BGA, will we break it back out, or just? I'll just tell Jerry, why don't you sit on that side of the table and get on your laptop, and we don't have to set this thing up,
right?
Because that's really the killer for me. I discussed this on a pod solo. I did Anachrony. That's the killer for me is the setup. I have zero desire to ever play Anachrony again.
Yeah.
Because last time we played with the Fractures of Time. I really liked it, but good Lord, it's been a year now. I could not tell you where the pieces, what does what, and they're so small. It's just a bear. And if I could find Anachrony online on BGA,
it'd be over.
I would.
Yeah,
it'd be over.
Yeah. I'm with you. I totally get that. Yeah, I'm even on Anachrony. I'm with you. Like, if I do have the desire to play Anachrony, that setup and teardown and relearning the rules is always sort of a bummer. And if it was on BGA, my copy would be gone. I'd sell it or trade it for sure.
Even though Jerry did paint the minis, and it's very nice. I love Anachrony.
Yeah.
I love Anachrony, but my God, it's a bear of it. And that's the way I've been leaning more here lately is because we don't have a whole lot of time to play. And if it takes half the day setting the game up and taking it down, no, it's a hard pass for me these days.
I'm with you.
Used to, I'd be willing to invest more time and try and figure stuff out because I was so interested in everything. But nowadays I kind of know what I like. And it's just, I'm not going to mess with it.
You're jaded and
I'm
cynical.
I'm the jaded gamer. I was going to say the one other, speaking of BGA, I played My Shelfie.
Oh, okay. I've seen that. I have not played it. How'd you like it?
It's fine. It's it's Connect 4 with, it reminds me of Connect 4 with the cartographers trying to get things in groups.
Okay.
That count for stuff.
Okay.
And that's literally all it is. It will tell you, if you get this thing in this position, that's points. If you get several things orthogonally adjacent to each other that are similar, those are points.
Okay.
It's just a variety of ways to score points, and you drop them in there, Connect 4 style.
So it's like Connect 4, but instead of like going for 4 in a row, you are going for like making shapes, sort of. You
can make shapes.
You can have like
a personal
stuff.
goal.
Okay, right.
And you have public goals. And there is just a variety. Sometimes it's like you want them in this pattern. I think game-wise, you always score points, no matter the goals, for the same type of object. It's like trophies, books. There's like 4 or 5 different items.
Right.
And if you get those all a big grouping of them, you score for that
more
grouping.
Points. Gotcha.
So it's super simple. It's not one I would ever buy now. It's too light.
Yeah,
it's too light for me.
Right.
I would play it it's one of those, like, I don't do this anymore, but if I was to buy a family game for my family that is not interested in games, even though I used to keep buying games trying to get them interested, which
Right.
I've now given up on,
Right.
it would be one I would try to get for my family,
I
but
see.
they're not interested. Jerry's not going to play it. Nobody I game with that likes, Marco Polo 2 or Marco Polo is going to play my shelfie with me.
Yeah.
So
And it's like a 15-minute game on BGA? Like real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, it's like the first person to fill up their little grid.
Yeah.
Like that's the end game.
Gotcha.
It was perfectly fine. And then I did get Jerry, I guess he kickstarted Resist.
Okay. I've heard a lot of good things about
Exclamation point.
this. How'd you guys like this? Or have you played it yet?
really liked it.
Okay.
I really liked it.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of stuff about this. What's
It's,
the deal with it? What's this?
It's okay. Now see, I don't read the backstory on these games. It's something to do with the French Maquis,
Okay.
which some sort of resistance fighters in World War One or you're
French
making me look
Revolution
really
sort of
ignorant
thing?
right now.
Spain, 1936.
Spain,
Yeah.
1936.
General Franco.
There you go.
But how does
Something,
it play?
something.
How does it? What's the story with it or the deal with it?
You have your resistance fighters. This is what's the interesting part is you have these resistance fighters and there's a setup thing to them, which I won't get into, but you can either play your resistance fighters in a hidden capacity or in a revealed capacity. So hidden, they're two-sided. So hidden is on the left and revealed is on the right.
Okay.
So if you play them to the left, then they're going to have their ability there on the left. So it goes in this order. So you're going to plan. So if it has plan written on them, like this one does here that I'm showing you that no one else can see.
Yeah.
So the plan action is what takes place first. So if I put this person as a hidden person to the left, then that plan's going to activate. Or the revealed person to the right, that plan's going to activate in the planning stage.
Okay.
And then you go through you're trying to take down your enemies at these various locations, these missions, basically.
Oh, this is a solo game. I didn't realize this is a solo game.
Yeah, it's solo only.
Gotcha.
And so it's thematic to me. I like the way that you're revealed figures. So you're revealing them. They're in the revealed part. They can do damage. They do their thing, but then they're gone.
Yeah, gotcha.
So they go to the discard pile, or not the they got all these terminologies for this deck, and this discard pile is two different names. This discard pile is two different names. It's kind of confusing in that aspect. But the ones that remained hidden, you get to keep them.
Okay.
And it's kind of a deck builder, but there's not a whole lot of deck building going on. But if you defeat certain missions, they enable you to take another one from this other deck off to your right and add it back in so that you have some more fighters.
Gotcha.
So you're trying to defeat these soldier type people, and you have these spies that clog up your hand. They're just, like
dead
Pandemic
cards
and everything else, any other deck builder. But the revealed and the hidden was interesting to me, that you lose them, and the spies that stay hidden, you get to keep those. You can add to your deck. Yeah, I lost my first solo game, but I really liked the theme. I liked the mechanisms. I found it very interesting.
Yeah, I didn't realize I'd heard of this and I heard good things, but I didn't realize this was a David Thompson design, the guy who did Pavlov's House and soldiers in postmen's uniforms and war chest and all that stuff. I usually like his designs, and all the Undaunted games obviously are his. So yeah,
I said French Maquis, Spanish Maquis. What Maquis means, I don't know.
I think it's like a duke or something. I think it's like a term of royalty of some sort. But
so My Shelfie and Resist are my two newest games I've played. That My Shelfie, it's okay.
Yeah,
but Resist I really liked.
I'll give My Shelfie a try on BGA. It's a game based on your explanation that I probably would never play in person or go and buy. But if it's a 15-minute BGA game,
to me it's like along the lines of like a Zulareto type.
Okay, yeah,
weight.
Yeah, that's totally fine. I got a chance to play Bullet Star. Have you played these bullet games? Bullet Heart, Bullet Star.
I've heard of Bullet Heart, but no, I haven't played them.
So Bullet Star is the sequel, and I think there's another like Bullet Square or Bullet Circle coming out. I don't know why they're doing the shape stuff, but this is like a real time anime.
Bullet time.
Yeah, bullet time. Exactly, it is bullet time. Whenever you play Bullet Star, it's bullet time. but it's this real-time game where sort of like, God, what was that old Mario game? Like Dr. Mario or was it like Tetris Attack, where you are drawing these bullets, which are just little tokens, out of your bag, and you're putting them down different columns on your own personal board. And if you match shapes that are on your particular deck of cards, then you clear them from your board and you sort of send them to your opponent, and now they have to draw them, and their columns and their own personal screen gets filled up faster. And if you have to draw a bullet and it's supposed to go down a certain column and there's no room in that column and it drops to the bottom, then you get hurt, and it's sort of like the last woman standing, I should say, because this is a anime game where all the characters are women. But real time, sort of interesting. And I traded for it thinking like this is sort of a unique game, and it is unique. It's like a unique mechanism, but in practice, it sort of fell a little bit flat, because I don't know. I tend to like real time games just fine, but this was sort of a weird situation where it was a real time game where the time pressure didn't really ever get to us. Like you get 3 minutes per round, and we were always done way before. And then also, you're pulling these tokens out, at random. You have to pull all the ones you have in your bag, no matter what. And then you're also trying to match these shapes you have on your card. And it never really felt super exciting. You never really felt like you had much control over it, because, you're pulling whatever is in your bag. It's not like you get to choose what you pull out of your bag. Mm-hmm. There's some manipulation you can do. You can like spend these like action points to sort of like manipulate things a little bit. But yeah.
Sounds like coffee roasters.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like a multiplayer coffee roaster is real time is a pretty good.
Speaking of another game, an app killed for me.
Coffee roast. Oh yeah, for sure.
But I coffee roast. That's why I don't. It's about Jerry loved coffee, and I'm like, it's drawing these things out of a bag, and sometimes like you go through your whole first couple of turns and you did nothing.
Right.
You did nothing but let them age or whatever. It's like I much prefer a Warp's Edge to coffee roast.
Oh, I haven't played that yet. I just got that in a trade, but I have not played it yet. I've heard good things about that as well.
It's a superior game, but that's why I had a solo weekend set up for myself.
I saw that picture. Yeah. You had what? You had a Red Cathedral. Yeah.
Resist, Warp's Edge.
You get through all of them?
I did Red Cathedral, I've done Resist, now I have left Warp's Edge, which I've played, okay. But I need to play it again as a refresher. But and Red Cathedral is another one of these. You ever play a solo game and keep beating it, so you think you must be doing it wrong?
Yes. Oh yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I've played solo 4 times. I've won them all.
Okay.
And I've even had their cards set up perfectly for the AI, for Ivan. And I win. I'm like, Ivan, play harder, man. I don't know what's going on.
There are no difficulty levels? You can't like juice it up, make it
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, I've only played Red Cathedral multiplayer, which I liked. I liked it quite a bit, actually. But
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
But the solo... There's one rule that this is where I may be going wrong. And like once you flip through all your cards and you do the reset for the AI,
right?
That's when he gives an ornament to your or one of his buildings.
Okay.
According to the rules, it says he goes in this order: door, arch, steeple.
Right. Okay.
And it says you go in that order. And if you can't do it, well, then you just skip it. And it said, even if there are other ornaments to be done.
Okay, right.
So that leads me to believe, even if there's an arch available for him to place, but he can't place a door, then I can't play that arch.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah.
That's the way that I've read the rules. And therefore, I think that's the only way I've been able to beat him so far, is because he's not been able to place all his ornaments. So I'm just ready for someone to say, oh, no, that's wrong. You put the ornament there no matter what. And I'm like, oh, okay. Then I would have been losing all these times.
Have you looked it up on BGG?
I have not.
Okay, yeah, I bet there are people on the forums talking about that.
I'm sure they have, and then I'll be very disappointed myself. but I do. It does kind of like Resist. I played it, lost like pretty much immediately. I'm like, as a solo gamer, not that I'm big into solo. I'm not a huge solo gamer, but I do enjoy. I like to lose to the solo a few times before I win.
Yeah,
that way I feel like I've done something.
Yeah, there's nothing there. I mean, it's such a you feel so flat when you play a solo game for the first time and you end up like destroying it or just even beating it. You're like, what am I doing now? Like, I'm done. I'm not going to play this again now.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's that.
Yeah.
But actually, once we hang up from here, we're recording this on Sunday. I'll probably finish watching the Cowboys play. So
Who are they playing?
The Vikings, which are 8-1, I think.
Yeah, they're
so
the team that
Cowboys,
everybody's like saying don't deserve their record, right? They're doing it with smoke and mirrors.
well, we'll see. The mighty Cowboys are coming to town. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this one, Mark. Mark of Board Game Barrage, which I find unnecessary to say, but there might be one or two people listening that don't know who y'all are,
Sure.
even though y'all are. I put y'all in the big top 4 these days. It's y'all, Shut Up, Sit Down, Dice Tower, Secret Cabal. That's it.
That's it. Well, you guys are joining next year, right? You're the next ones to take over the
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
BGG.
I'm sure.
Could happen.
Yes, no.
I think
There's
it could
other podcasts that scramble for podcast co-hosts like we do. But I appreciate you coming on. Sometimes, last time I had you on, Kellen messaged me. He's like, oh, you don't want to have me on? So I made plans. And then he's like, oh, I got to move my brother.
Oh, see.
He's done that twice.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, Kellen, I don't feel like you're really interested.
Can I tell you something? He doesn't even have a brother.
I'm not surprised. That's the vibe I got.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but if him or Neelan are interested, you can let them know.
Yeah,
They're
definitely.
more than welcome to come on here, even though I don't think they're interested, but that's okay.
Well, the problem is the quality of your show is just going to decrease once you hit the heights of having me on. It's
Once you've had the green tank on, why go for any
that's
other
right.
color?
Once you've bitten into an onion, then
the onion juices will flow.
that's right. Exactly.
All right. Well, Mark, thank you very much. You can catch Mark on, of course, Board Game Barrage, and anything else you want to promote.
No, not especially. Watch
good.
the World Cup. Try
There
to
you go.
spread the World Cup love.
Who are you rooting for?
I'm rooting for USA. I'm a homer. I'm rooting for good games, but rooting for the Yanks to do something here.
What's the farthest they've ever gotten?
They actually finished in 3rd place back in 1950 when half the world didn't come because they had to come by boats. Literally teams weren't coming because it was like a 2-month boat ride and it doesn't really sound as good as 3rd place might make you believe. So yeah.
That's what they need to do. They need to set up a World Cup in America and then start another pandemic and say, well, we're playing without you guys.
We're doing
so
it.
whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
We win. We win.
Well, you know what? The next World Cup is in 4 years in the United States, at least partially in the United States. So maybe we're going to get pandemic part 2. No, I'm just kidding.
There we go. Get that COVID variant going.
There you go. But
Just
totally my
kidding. I
pleasure.
don't wish it on anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you.
All right. Well, thanks again, Mark. And thanks for listening. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for tolerating this episode of the Board Game Snobs. Stay classy.